This has been something that has been speculated about, and Pompeo's a good man. He'll be well regarded at state. He has a good relationship with the president. I saw him on the Sunday shows talking about foreign policy, not just intelligence. So I think he's a good pick. And I think Tillerson did a good job in terms of changing some of our relationships around the world with some of our allies. He worked it hard. He's someone who I've gotten to know because I'm on the Foreign Relations Committee, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if this rumor is true.
Would have you preferred he stayed if it is true?
Look, I don't prefer one or the other. I mean, I think he's got to make a decision himself. I know he had talked about leaving, as Becky indicated some time ago, and so it doesn't surprise me.
Let's talk while we have you here, and we've got your comments before, but. And I remember you said carve-outs, specifics. Now we know about the tariffs. Is this more in line with what you're comfortable with, the way that the steel and aluminum tariffs have been rolled out than initially? You seemed you just needed more info. Are you happy now?
Yeah, look, it's still unclear exactly how it's going to work out, but I think it's good to exclude Canada and Mexico. We're in the middle of negotiations with them on the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and I think it might help to get us to a decision point on NAFTA. And then some other allies, Australia and UK, come to mind, who are in the top 10 steel exporters to us. Those are obviously strong allies and military allies right now in some important conflicts. So I think it's better to do it in a more targeted way. One thing I said last time, Joe, was there are certain products of steel that are particularly problematic because they're coming in at very high levels. Electrical steel I talked about, which is threatening our ability to have an electrical steel production here in the United States, which is necessary for our grid. The other is oil country products. The pipes and tubes have been coming in. Electrical, 100%. Pipes and tube, about 80 or 90% increase just in the last year alone. So I think targeting the products is also important.
Senator, sorry to interrupt you, but that news that was just coming from the Washington Post before is now being confirmed by the president himself, who just tweeted out, Mike Pompeo, director of the CIA, will become our new Secretary of State. He will do a fantastic job. Thank you to Rex Tillerson for his service. Gina Haspel will become the new director of the CIA and the first woman so chosen. Congratulations to all.
Wow. Okay.
Senator, do you think this is going to mark a strategic shift in terms of how we approach our foreign relations? I mean, how much of a factor do you think Tillerson is? Maybe Pompeo, by the way, is closer to the president and the way the president thinks.
Well, I think he is closer to the president, and I think that probably is one reason, as Becky said, some folks at the State Department might be happy because they believe that their budget has been cut too far and that they haven't had the support that they're looking for. So we'll see what happens, Andrew. But I think Pompeo has got the respect, again, at the State Department, but also on the Hill. And so, he's obviously a former House member, so he has a lot of relationships here on Capitol Hill. So I don't see a big shift. And in fact, I maybe see a deepening of some ties. And again, in my view, Tillerson's done a good job. He comes to the Foreign Relations Committee and talks to us frequently. And, I wish him well.
So, Senator, what should we try to get out of North Korea, both before the meeting and during the meeting, do you think? Are there more? I heard there's no more conditions necessarily coming. And, there's going to be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking. I don't know. I would approach this with some consternation, given the history of negotiations with North Korea, knowing their history. And I'm sure,
exactly.
I mean, the president's probably not going in with rose-colored glasses necessarily, but you can't be too skeptical, right? How would you approach it? What would you ask for?
Well, I'd be very skeptical. They've used negotiations consistently, Joe, over time. It's sort of a roller coaster. They violate all kinds of international rules, and then they finally agree to have a meeting in exchange for not doing something. In this case, it would be cessation of their testing, both on the weapons of delivery, but also on nuclear weapons. And then right after the meeting, they go back to their old behavior after they get some additional concessions. Usually they're economic concessions. In other words, that countries, including the United States, agree to provide more aid. So, yeah, you have to be very, very skeptical. On the other hand, I have called for some time for direct negotiations and talks with them. As you know, I went through this process with Otto Warmbier. He was a constituent. I spent a lot of time on this issue. I did talk directly to the North Korean officials in New York City. Understanding that the State Department was not officially doing that, they allowed me to do that. And that was one reason we were able finally to at least figure out what his condition was. So you've got to have a negotiation, a a line of communication with them, a dialogue with them. But I'd be very skeptical.
Senator, back to the question of tariffs and protectionism and national champions. One of the big news items of the morning also has been this Broadcom-Qualcomm deal with CFIUS jumping in the middle and the administration blocking that. I just wonder sort of broadly what you think of that and whether you think that has implications for more transactions, not just those related to China, but even beyond that.
Well, I wasn't surprised from what I knew about it, and I'm not privy to all of the classified information on Broadcom, but I do think that given the Chinese influence, at least, and ownership to a certain extent of Broadcom and their interest in getting particularly this 5G technology, that it is a national security issue. So I think it's appropriate for CFIUS to have looked at it. So we'll get further briefings on it, but I was not surprised because I do think that we are in sort of a competition with China and Russia and other countries right now for what is perhaps the most important national security issue, which is technology. And this is an example of that.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.